Hi guys, I'm here with Kurt and we are just sitting down talking about social media and algorithms this morning.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, we're gonna nerd out a little bit, I think. So I hope that doesn't scare anyone away. Social media algorithms have sparked several controversies, primarily due to their influence on content visibility, user behavior, and societal impacts. So when you think about social media and algorithms, like what comes to mind?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, it might seem at first like, well, what does this matter?
Yeah.
So just as an example, and I think this probably captures a little bit of what we're driving at, I started renovating a bathroom recently. And so I did the YouTube, go on there, like, oh, how should I knock out the thing? How should I do this? Well, now my YouTube algorithm thinks that all I care about is bathroom renovation.
Yeah.
Because everything on my feed points to this.
Right.
And when you think about it, that's kind of nice because it's like, oh, I am interested in this right now because that's what I'm doing. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
But what happens on more substantial issues is it tends to follow your preferences to such an extent that the only thing you see are the things that either you're interested in or you already believe. Right. And how people have described it is it's a bit of an echo chamber where the more you click on something, the more you just keep reinforcing that same perspective so that you never see things that are counter to what it is that you believe or want to see even.
And on the flip side of that, social media companies get paid the longer you stay and interact. So it could be something you actually don't really agree with, but because maybe you're being argumentative or you're trying to prove your point, then all of a sudden you think everyone in the world believes this thing that you disagree with, when in actuality you're just stuck in an echo chamber.
And we talked about this a little bit in the politics podcast we did, which check it out if you haven't.
Yes.
The interesting thing for people is not, oh, let's find something reasonable, but it's like how to replace your bathroom in 3 days for $300.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, click on that, which is an impossibility. But again, the same thing happens where if I can get you to be angry, if I can get you to be sensationalized, if I can promise you something that seems outlandish, then you're going to click and stay. And to your point, there's a profit incentive. And anybody who's on social media, it's all about clicks. And so the more sensational you make it, the more it draws people in.
Right.
And sometimes doesn't even become what that person believes. It's just, how do I get you to click on this and go down a path?
Yeah. What do you think about, sometimes I think about algorithms and social media, like that old adage, if you look at where you're spending your money, that's where your heart is. And I kind of think about that with your algorithm or your timeline, your suggestions, like, all right, so you're spending all your time on this. At the moment for you is your bathroom, so your algorithm's saying, oh yeah. So not necessarily your entire heart, but a lot of where maybe you're spending your time in at the moment and where you're pouring your resources into.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt that it's a mirror of what you have clicked on. We have a shared Netflix account at our house, and my son Ben will sometimes say, yeah, you can tell mom's been on here. Look at all these girly movies and, that pop up in our feed.
Yeah.
And because it's a mirror. And so I think you're right. I mean, certainly money is obviously a mirror to our heart. But so is your algorithm. And so to be able to just say, what does this say about me right now?
Right.
And what's, right now what it says about me is I'm interested in bathroom renovation, which, okay, that is true.
Yeah.
But what else is buried in that? And how does that come back? And what does it say about what you're prioritizing, interested in, passionate about right now?
Yeah. So speaking on that, so how do algorithms, do you think, affect our relationships within our faith communities? Seeing that sometimes we can be stuck in echo chambers or maybe only hearing one side of things. Do you think that affects our relationships within the church?
I do. I think it does a lot, actually, because I think what happens is we start to project into our faith community, why isn't it more like my online world? And if our online world is designed to sensationalize and keep us there and get us angry, because those are the things that make us click, or feel fear or disgust or whatever it is, then when we go into a real set of relationships with people, it's almost like we want to bring some of that to bear because
Right.
that started to feel natural. And so I do think there's an impact. And again, part of why in-person community is so important because it's a lot harder to demonize somebody who I know and like
Yeah.
than it is somebody who's just online.
Right.
And so if somebody hits me with a, I'm not sure I buy what you're saying, now I'm in a relationship and there's real work to do. Whereas if it's just online, I can just be like,
Yeah.
that's just those people who believe that. And so the healthiest thing is to have relationships again with some people who don't see the world the same way we see it. It's the only way that we grow.
Right.
In ultimate, not the only way, but it's one of the ways God uses to grow us in our worldview is to have other people challenge our thinking.
Right. I think you really hit on my next question, but I just want to give you opportunity to add any more to that if you'd like. So what practical steps we as Christians take to ensure that we're engaging with diverse and truthful perspectives online?
Yeah, so obviously we need to force ourselves probably to say, is there another side? Can I listen to this? That's not easy because it's a lot easier to just keep listening to the same side of anything. And so I do think there's some wisdom to saying, let me hear this same thing covered from somebody whose point of view I don't necessarily agree with. Proverbs 18:17 says, basically when you go to a court, one side seems right when it's all you've heard until the other person speaks, and then all of a sudden you hear a whole nother. And what we're doing in social media a lot today is we're saying, I'm just hearing one side. And so there's a built-in bias that comes from that I think is good. And then clearly to invite real conversations again with people who have some divergent views is a good thing because in that it sharpens us. As long as you can do it gregariously and not get angry. But again, I would probably add that too. Posting on social media, in my humble opinion, around issues doesn't move the needle. What it does is it makes you feel virtuous because you feel like you've posted something and then your friends like it and it makes you all feel like, yeah, we're the right ones. I don't think it usually, usually people don't sit down with their social media feed and go, oh, wow, this person posted that well. Now that's what I think. And I'm not saying that there's not a place for that, for saying, I want to post, I want to let people know where I stand. But again, the angry post, the just virtue signaling that can go on, I'm not sure moves the needle or invites conversation. And so I would encourage people to be much more open-handed, saying, hey, this is kind of where I'm at, but I'd love to hear from those of you who see it differently. If you're going to post, ask for a conversation. Maybe instead of being like, hey, I'm just throwing down. But I think it would even be better to probably step out of that arena and say, or maybe say this, hey, I'm going to have, coffee bar at 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. Come on over and let's have a conversation about this. Like take even that step if you really want to engage, rather than being like, there, I dropped my post and now it's out there for everyone. Or I reposted something I saw that I love that was on that side. Now, again, I get why people see that differently, but to me, it's one of the reasons I kind of stepped off social media is all I saw was a lot of that virtue signaling.
Yeah. So how aware, and this might be a little generational, do you think users are that algorithms actually manipulate their experience?
I think the younger generation is more aware than probably the older generation. And you can go way back pre-algorithm to cable news because people will sit and watch the same cable news channel all day long. And you think that's an algorithm just in a different form. Where you're in the same echo chamber all day long if you just sit and listen to one channel. and it's almost like unaware, like this is the way it is.
Yeah.
I think younger generation tends to be a little more internet savvy, and they understand how some of it works.
Right.
But sometimes there's almost an I don't care. It's like, well, yeah, of course this is what I need. And this is the news feed or the ideas, because it's just reinforcing.
What about the mental health concerns? So the design of algorithms can contribute to a lot of negative mental health outcomes, and I think we're actually seeing that in the younger generation with the isolation. We're not really engaging with one another in meaningful ways. How do we navigate that as Christians? Because social media is here to stay, and we're all on it. Our children are all on it. What are some ways we can kind of help with those mental health concerns?
Yeah, I think I talked about this on a weekend not long ago a little bit, because I referenced the book by Jonathan Haidt about the mental health of the emerging generation. And his solution was take the phones away from the kids. I don't know if that's a realistic thing. And obviously, again, I'm kind of past that. You're at the beginning of what am I going to do with my kids having phones. I think if I were parenting, and I think parenting's the right place for it, more so than trying to say we have a societal fix.
Right.
And I realize that that is hard because you're going to have to swim against culture. But I see kids getting cell phones with full access who are in 5th, 6th grade, and I just think, in what world is that going to be good for a kid?
Right.
And again, it isn't just the content that's on there, although that is negative. I think it's the accessibility to other kids that's really negative. Because, and again, I sound old here, but when I was a kid, you went to school, you went home, and you had a break from school, and all the kids, other than the phone that you had to talk on, and you had the big cord, and you had to stand there, and everybody could hear your conversation. And what was good about that is you had a 12-hour reset before you had to go back into the school. Where you had a chance. But what's happening now with texting and kids who take their phones to their bedrooms at night is they're in there texting, and the group chats and all this stuff are going on all night. And I know that some parents will say, well, I don't want my kid to miss out on that. And what I'd say is be the bad guy for your kids. My mom, my dad, they say I can't have the phone after this time. And I would have an endpoint of your phone, at least with younger kids and even older kids, where it's like at this time of night, the phone goes face down on the table in the kitchen, and we're done. Because I think there's just so many negatives to that accessibility, and I would not want my kids to have, younger kids, to have a phone in a bedroom at night. I don't see any upside to that. Now, again, at some point, kids need to learn to navigate that, and I would rather they navigate it in my house than out of my house. So I'm not advocating that they go off to college and it's the first time that they have their phone in their bedroom. But what I'm saying is you are 100% right. There are mental health problems that are sweeping this generation that are 100% tied to the habits of social media, phones, computer access, everything. Even the advent of the phone, the iPad, in your case, a Google tablet, whatever that is. Ashley's not an Apple person, so
Team Green.
That's right. So but whatever that is again, you've moved from the family computer. I have to sit in the room where everybody sees what I'm doing, to everybody has a device. And again, there's just so much opportunity. And even if the content itself isn't bad, like even if somebody's managing, to your point, it's the echo chamber, it's and then it's the interaction piece that I think can just be so negative. Because as a kid, you need a chance to reset.
Absolutely.
Almost every day.
You bring up some really great practical tips, and there's a book that my husband and I are reading, trying to navigate this. It's called The Anxious Generation. I know a lot of people have read it, and it kind of speaks to the mental health of kids and technology. And I think we personally have started to see that where we want to give our kids some more independence and let them grow up, like you said, but then how do we do that safely and come with some in-betweens.
And what have you guys landed on? And how old are your kids, and what have you landed on? Just so that people hear that.
Great. Our kids are 9, 8, and 2.
Okay.
So with our 9-year-old, we thought he's responsible enough to have a watch. And so on this watch, he's able to call and text us. He's not able to call and text friends. I want him to go have these relationships with friends and not on texting them. We're also able to track them, and I know some people feel different ways about that, but we like to give him the freedom to ride his bike around the neighborhood and go places, and felt like that was just a really good in between of him not having a cell phone on, that he has access to everything, but also we can make sure we're keeping him safe and connected. And it is a Google Watch. It's powered by Fitbit, so it has a lot of incentives to be active and interact with his friends through avatars and not necessarily texting or so they have to be together doing like a physical activity, running, playing, really promoting. Back to those, I mean, like kind of old school, like I'm going to stay out until the street lights come on because that's okay, which I think sometimes this generation of parents have been a little bit afraid of. So kind of gave us a little bit of peace of mind, and that's how we've navigated that. And we are one PC home. If you're going to be on the laptop, it's at the dinner table, and just limiting access and having a really good eye on a balance of letting him, like he's a tech guy. He likes games. So my husband actually built a Minecraft server for him instead of giving him the open access server. So he can still play with his friends. He still gets the same opportunities that his other friends get. It's just with a little more supervision, and we know who he's playing with.
How much time do you let him play in a week? What's your approach on that?
So good kids need time to unwind when they come home. So during the school year, we give them 30 minutes. Whatever you want to do.
Okay.
If you want to sit and watch Netflix for 30 minutes, you want to be on your
screen
Switch.
time. 30 minutes, whatever you want. When you get home from school, decompress.
And then we're in a lot of activities and homework, so you get that done. And if there's a little more time, it's probably no more than 15 minutes on a weekday.
Okay.
Then you can have some more time once you've done all your responsibilities and taken care of that. And on the weekend, there's a little more, but again, that also comes with, all right, did you do X, Y, and Z first? And so that's kind of how we manage it. There are some rules around it. It's not a free-for-all, but
I'm sure that's a challenge for all parents right now, and trying to enforce that. And well, thank you.
No, thanks. Well, I think that's all the questions I had about algorithms and social media. And
what let me just ask one question. What do you see as a mom for you personally that is positive and negative in your own algorithm that comes up?
I think the positive for me, I'm not from Pittsburgh, so the positive for me is seeing all my family and friends that I've known forever and watching their kids grow up and seeing how they're raising their families and still feeling connected to them in some way, whether that's just a comment on their birthday or their anniversaries. A negative, I think, honestly, is also kind of in the same boat, a comparison syndrome. Like sometimes I'll be like, oh, well, they just, I don't know, went to Italy. Like maybe we should be going to Italy, and thinking about those things, or, she's working out 10 times a day, and maybe I should be doing that. So those for me are kind of my struggles of taking the joys of what social media and algorithms offer us, versus really trying to make sure that I'm comparing myself to what God has created me to be, and not others. So
and in some ways those are age-old questions. It just puts it more front and center, because the question is the same that it's always been, and that is, who am I in Christ? And is that enough? And what social media does isn't raise a question that's never been raised, but it puts it in front of you more frequently, maybe. And but it's the same core question that I think all of us have to say, and that is, okay, am I doing what God has called me to do, and is that enough? And if we can say yes, then good, and there's a lot there. So well, great. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us today again. And as always, a lot of great content on Orchard Hill Plus. The weekends, every weekend, we hope are beneficial to you as well. So thanks for spending part of your day here with us.